Alright, here we go with our next Oscar roundup video, and I'm doing this one earlier in the month than I typically do because we got an actual Oscar ceremony sometime early next month, and I'm probably just going to try to. One of the movies isn't even available, I don't think, until right before the show, so I want everything else wrapped up. And this is interesting crop this season. It's first of all, as you can see, best adapted screenplay. And so I'm going to use the exact same parameters I did for the last time I did screenplays. I've done screenplays, I think, two other times. Well, it'll be characters, dialogue, plot, intangibles, and then, do the totals and stuff. A complete unknown is a completely unknown to me. I have no idea what it is. Conclave brings to mind, like, conspiracy of some sort. Like, I think a conclave is, there's, like, electing the Pope. But it also means, like, a secret cabal or a secret organization that is like trying to do shit. Because the thing that elects the Pope is like very secretive, right? And I mostly know about that because there was Angels and Demons. It was that was a prequel to the Da Vinci Code, right? Whatever name the guy is that did the Da Vinci Code, he did Angels and Demons, which is all about the conclave, is all about electing a new Pope. And so that was kind of interesting. Like, there's a whole deal. There's a whole procedure. There's like four people are in position, and one of them is going to be the next pope, and then there's a vote, and they keep voting until they come to some kind of conclusion. I don't know. It's a whole thing. I think probably this is the movie's going to be about some kind of secret cabal because that's the other um, definition of the word conclave. Emilia Perez is apparently the worst movie ever made. Like, every time I turn around, somebody's talking shit about this movie. Like, every single time. Like, I really want to see it. It's not available for download yet, which is, makes me very sad. But, like, I swear to God, like, I mean, people are trashing this fucking movie. I cannot wait to see how bad it is. I'm very excited. Nickel Boys, no idea what the hell that's going to be about. Maybe a gang that steals nickels from vending machines. I don't know. Sing Sing, either a musical, barf, or the prison Sing Sing, barf. Could it be both? Would they do a musical in the prison Sing Sing? I don't even know why they call it Sing Sing, the prison. I don't know. Every time I have so many questions in life, I never have time to answer them all. Well, that's what we're doing, and this is how it's all set up. And so now I'll go away, and then I'll be back when I've seen movies. Alrighty, here we go with our first contestant. And characters were fantastic. They were very well developed. They were all three dimensional. Nobody felt cardboard. They all had nuance. So, I mean, I don't know how you get better writing characters in these. I'm going to save some room for Jesus, I guess. I'll make it a 9. Just in case there's like a character's like an iconic all time, makes the list of the 100 best characters ever created, right? Like, you got to leave a little room for Jesus, I guess. So, I will give that a 9. But it's a 9 with a bullet, right? So, okay. Dialogue, fantastic. Felt very naturalistic. I have a feeling there was a lot of improv or just making the dialogue your own. Like I said, there was a moment in the movie, and when the two guys were in the cells next to each other talking to each other, I feel like there was a camera in his cell, camera and mic in his cell, camera and mic in his cell. They filmed it all at once. They're talking to each other. That's how they got the audio so good when they were on the other person. It really sounded like they were talking to each other across. So they were running two cameras. I actually shot in a prison one time, and I did the same thing. So that's probably how they did that. But in that scene, he's talking, and then he stops what he's saying and says, "What?" And then I don't even think the other guy answered me. It's like his brain caught up. Okay, I realized what you said, and then he answers what was said. Right? That doesn't happen on the page. I've never seen that on the page. That's two actors with great chemistry cooking, right? Improv. So I don't know how much the dialogue was writing. I'm gonna say the monologues were great. It was a lot of his writing, but if I was convinced it was all writing, I would give it a 9, right? But to me, I think some of this was the acting. All right, so plot is, I talked about I had issues, right? Here's where I had issues. Point of view. Here's the thing. The movie is Was it Devontae? I think it's his movie. We're with him from the very beginning of the movie till the very end of the movie. The movie ends when he walks out of prison. It's about his journey. It's about how he impacts other people. It's his story. We're only in his point of view. And then suddenly he disappears from the movie for 15 minutes. And you just can't do that. You can't just suddenly shift the point of view to somebody else because then the audience feels lost. It's just bad writing. If you need that, and I feel like the movie needed it, it needed him to be sulking and to withdraw from everybody, just really be in a dark place and get pulled back by his friends. You needed that. So you needed him to go away. Well, if that's what you're going to do in Act 3, you have to go back to Act 1 and introduce a second point of view character. The gangster, the drug dealer, whatever his name was. Give him some scenes by himself so that you're kind of switching back and forth. Now, if you were to go back and watch this movie again, pay attention to it, you will see the gangster doesn't have a single scene without Devontae until we hit this sequence in Act 3 where for 15 minutes he's gone from the movie. And all of a sudden, the gangster has to pick up the slack. Then the scenes become about him. He doesn't have a single scene by himself. You might say, well, what about when he was accosting the guy for the money that was owed to him? Well, Devontae and his buddy, Mike, were watching from across the yard. So you accessed that scene with just the two of them through Devontae. It wasn't just a scene by himself. You accessed it through Devontae. So, you had to have had other scenes with he had to have been by himself. Just make that scene by himself. You've already got it that way. Having him do some other shit by himself, talking to other people. Maybe he has a cellmate that he's kind of close to that wants him to stay rough and tumble, gangster, hardcore. And so he has a couple scenes, he has a couple conversations. You'd have to tweak the plot a little bit. But you need, if you're gonna have one of your point of view characters disappear for a good chunk of the movie, you need a second point of view character previously established as a point of view character to pick up the slack when it happens. Otherwise, you have main character, and then main character disappears. And then we're just left here holding our dicks like, well, who the fuck do we follow now? Now, this guy's been in a lot of movies, but he was always playing second banana to the main character. He was never a character on his own. His only relationship with us was through Devontae. Now, all of a sudden, he's by himself. That's just bad writing. You don't do that. And because it's based on a book, I feel you can do that in a book. A book is different than a movie. In a book, that's what you can have point of view chapters, right? You can go all over the place. George R. R. Martin, he has so many different point of view characters. Christine had 2 of the 3 arcs of the movie, the book Christine, were told from one point of view, and then the middle arc was told from another point of view. You can do shit like that in a novel, in prose, because you're in characters' heads. You can't do that in a movie. So it's just bad structure. It's bad. So I think that's probably the way it was in the book, and they just adapted it faithfully into the movie script without thinking about the point of view structure. I feel like that's a fundamental flaw that they had. So I got to knock them points for that. So I'm only going to give them a 6. The plot otherwise was great. I love the story. I love what the story's about. I love what the movie's about. I really do. But man, this is a huge flaw. And it really made the third act kind of drag for me. Because if you were watching this and you felt like, man, this is, when is this movie over? Can we get to the point where he changes his mind and he comes back in? If you're wondering why you felt that way, you felt that way because of this writing problem. Because you were trying to acclimatize yourself suddenly an hour and 20 minutes into the movie to a different point of view that had not been previously established. That's why you felt that way. And that's why you don't do that. So, fundamental flaw there. Intangibles, like I said, I really like what the story is doing. I like the story is telling. I hate prison movies typically because they're like werewolf movies. There's only one kind of prison movie. There's only one kind of werewolf story. So this broke the mold. This is not your typical prison. Nobody's trying to escape. Nobody's trying to riot. Nobody's trying to kill each other. They just didn't really delve into many of the tropes. It just felt like a different thing. It was just the prison was setting. It was not plot. How many times have you seen a movie where the setting is prison, but it's not the plot? The plot wasn't the prison. This could have been anywhere. It could have been they could the oppression. This could have been community theater in New York City, and they're just oppressed by the fact they're broke, but they want to do something they love. It could have been the exact same story, essentially. Now you have the whole parole hearing and shit, but that could be trying to get a job where you can actually earn money to live, and you would have the exact same plot. And in the end of the movie, he finally gets a job that pays him enough where he can do his acting and also support his family or whatever. Basically, the exact same story. There's a lot of most prison stories you can't take them out of that and put it somewhere else and tell the same story. This you can't. So here, the prison was just a setting. Man, is that refreshing. So that was very well done. So I'm going to give that an 8. 8 intangibles. Therefore, 31. So that's a 31. It's way too early. This is really a comparison thing. Do I think this could win? Yes, I do. But it's a comparison thing. We got to compare it to the other stories first. So far, so good. This is a great movie. Okay, I just finished watching Emilia Perez. And let's go and get into the numbers. Okay, the characters are strong. I'm going to give it another 9. Just three-dimensional again. There wasn't that many characters, actually. Well, actually, let me take this back. There were 2 three-dimensional, fully defined characters in the entire movie. Now that I actually think about it, the wife was a little one-note cardboard, and so was Ophelia, who just came in really late in the movie anyway, and nobody else really mattered. That's it. No, I gotta actually take that back. This is not a 9. Look, if we were just grading 2 characters in a movie, it'd be a 9. But they didn't really. The movie didn't really take time to define the wife. We didn't really get to know what motivates her. We didn't spend enough time with her, and that wasn't truly the focus of the movie. But considering the way the movie ended, you probably should have put more time into that. You had a great actress; she could have nailed whatever. Like she likes to fuck around. Like the movie cast her as a villain. She waited 5 years. Apparently, was not having sex in Switzerland, right? So, what do you expect, man? Like she thinks her husband is dead. So I don't know, man. Like now that I think about it. By the way, was that her? I just thought about this. They didn't kill the fiance. They beat him up and gave him a little bit of money and told him to leave town. Was that him at the end in the car? Because I thought the guy in the car was a head mercenary that she went to, and he found some friends, and they all worked together. Because I didn't think the guy she was with would be wearing night goggles and having guns and controlling a kidnapping scenario, right? I thought that would be some one of the mercenaries that she knew from the old days, and he got a crew together. But now that I think about it, that might now that I think about it, he had the bruising on his face. That might have been her fiance. See, shit like that's unclear when you don't define the characters. When you get no characterization for any of the secondary characters. Shit like that becomes really unclear and confusing. So yeah, I'm actually gonna have to knock it down to 7 now. The more I think about it, which is too bad because clearly the writers know how to give 3-dimensional characterization because they did it with the main 2 characters. Those were fully realized. Dialogue was good. My pussy still hurts when I think of you is almost as bad as you want the good girl, but you need the bad pussy. It's a terrible line, but we're not going to dock it too much. We'll give it an 8. Plot suffers badly. Like I talked about this in the main film. The pacing's all over the place. It's really 3 or 4 short stories cobbled together. It's not one coherent story. I don't know. Like, there's no clear passage of time, or not. A lot of things are just vague, sketched out. Like, I don't know. The plot was really the focus of the movie. This was a character-driven movie, not a plot-driven movie. But the plot felt really weak. And the ending was terrible. So, I don't know. Like, I'm going to have to give it a 5. Like, it's even worse than the previous one. As far as intangibles go, what is the movie trying to say? I feel like they were pretty strong with the idea of redemption and true remorse and having to change yourself so completely to get away from the kind of person you were before. Like, that feels a little muddy to me, though, right? Because there's wanting to transform into the other gender, right? Like, there's that. That's an issue. And then there is, I'm an evil, shitty person who kills people, and I don't want to be that anymore. And that's a completely separate issue. To kind of mash them together and make them as if they're the same thing just doesn't work for me. That doesn't make any sense. That's not, what is the motivation here? It felt like he had always wanted to be a woman, and then he realized that. But did he not feel any remorse until? Did he not feel any remorse until he had transformed into a woman? Why would that be? Because I also wondered, why was she so stupid as a woman, and the lacking the tactical abilities, the strategic and tactical abilities that you would have to be the head of a cartel. You don't just roll out of bed and become the head of a cartel. There was no presumption of, I inherited this from my father and I kind of was just running shit, but I'm not very good at it. It felt like he was a self-made man. He became the head of a cartel on his own. He rose up through the ranks, ran the cartel, and then decided to bash his wand against the rocks and abdicate his power and leave the island, right? That kind of thing. So, why would you so badly handle your ex-wife? I mentioned it at the time. Like, you have to be a master manipulator to be the leader of a cartel. You got to be able to see the threats coming, know how to work people, know how to get what you want. That doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't, if you're the kind of person who become head of a cartel, you wouldn't be the kind of person to so badly handle your ex-wife in that way. Now, you could say maybe you're flooded with hormones, but women can think strategically too. So I just don't believe that. I don't know, but I don't believe that. I don't believe just because you're a woman now, all of a sudden you've lost the ability to think tactically and strategically. So it's inconsistent. The characterization is inconsistent. I think I'm gonna have to dock you a number point for characters because it's an inconsistently written character. It doesn't make any sense. Now we all can have be in a fit of rage and say and do the wrong thing, but could that kind of person do that? If you were the kind of person to fly off the handle the first time you're pissed off, you would have rising up through the ranks of the cartel. You would have pissed off the wrong person and gotten your head cut off, right? So I just don't believe it. It just doesn't track for me. So that didn't make any sense, and then like I said, the whole other thing is muddy as far as why do you feel remorse? Why are they trying to mash those two things together that don't really go together? That feels clumsy. So I guess I'm gonna have to give you a 4 for intangibles. This is not great, right? So I think the writing is bad in places. The writing is not great for this movie. I wonder if that's why people hated it. But here's the thing: I love the characterization. I love the character. It's a character-driven movie. I love the characters. I enjoyed my time with them. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed how that was woven into the story and how every song had a purpose. It wasn't just there so we could have an exciting song. One of my favorite things was just when they were loading their weapons, there was a beat to that. They took the time to make a beat to them loading their weapons. That was just fucking great, man. I really liked that. I enjoyed this movie. But it does have writing problems, right? So we're not off to a good start here. 2 out of 5 for me have not impressed me with the writing. I mean, this shit's only a 23. That's not great, fellas. We'll see. I mean, I'm going to compare all 5 of them together before I say who I think is going to win or lose. But because there's other things going on. For instance, I think Sing Sing was actually a really low budget movie. If you're a low budget movie, you don't have the budget to market you need to market your Oscar nominations to get people to vote for your film. There's a huge sometimes it can be $100 million marketing budget for things like that for Best Picture. Probably not for a Best Adapted Screenplay, but for Best Picture they can spend as much as $100 million trying to get that Oscar. That has happened before. So Sing Sing did make money, which they could then turn into apply to marketing for an Oscar. But that money would not have been in the original. But I think somebody said it was a $2 million budget. That is crazy. It was really low. So I don't know. So that'll be the kind of shit I kind of think about on top of if I'm kind of torn which one I think will win. Then there's the political issues and all this other stuff. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But so far so bad from a writing point of view. All right, here we go with the Oscar numbers for Nickel Boys. Like I said, we've already talked about this. Great movie, but I had problems with it. You're listening to me bitch about it for 2 hours, so I'm not going to talk about it much more here. We're just going to do the numbers. Now, was here's my question: was the idea to do it as a first-person perspective from the director or from the screenwriter? That is interesting, right? That's an interesting idea. Because if it's in the script, then we can blame the scriptwriters for it. But what if the director came in and said, "This is what I want to do," and then maybe they did a rewrite to reflect that? I'm trying to think: is there anything in the plot that required them to know it had to be a first-person perspective movie? I think I don't know how you do this without knowing his first-person perspective. You'd have to do another draft. Because otherwise, you could bounce around and show other people talking all kinds of situations, and there were situations here where the other person had to be present so you could see the wide shot of them, like when Elwood's going to go talk to the people, he's going to go put give them the notebook or whatever. So I think it had to be come from the script point of view. So anyway, we're talking about characters. The characters are very well defined, especially Elwood, Turner. Those are the only two we really get to know. We get little glimpses and pieces of the other people, but. But as they were, I think they're pretty well defined. So I'm going to give it a 7. I had a problem connecting with the characters, but that's because of the way they shot it. But, I think we got to blame them. I'm blaming the screenwriters for that. Dialogue was fantastic. It was so good, man. I'm giving them a 10 off the top. It was so good. There was some great dialogue. Nana was fantastic. Oh, she was another one. I feel like she got characterization. We had enough scenes with her where we feel like we understand who she is as a person. I'm going to have to give this an 8. Like, it wasn't just two people. Plot. Super fucking confusing. It's really hard to follow at times. Did a decent enough job. I really like the flash forwards. I like how we're bouncing around with the flash forwards. They're kind of going back and forth too, because the first flash forward was with computers, but then we bounced back to like the 70s, and it was like 88 or something, and then back to the computers again. So there were structurally, I have a lot of problems with this movie. Again, it's not for me. So, but plot was weak. This is a character-driven movie. You had a plot sometimes. So again, this is amazing to me. This is best adapted screenplay. It's one of the best screenplay categories. Okay, and we've had 3 movies. None of them have been above a 6 in plot. The fuck, man. Was only the character-driven movies? These are all character-driven movies. Were they the ones nominated? Man, what the fuck, man? I'm about to watch Conclave. I've seen about 20 minutes of A Complete Unknown as of the time I write this or record this, and not enough there to know about the plot. But man, the plot's been weak in this category. This is amazing to me. Intangibles. Boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about here. All right, first of all, let's talk about the N-word. This isn't my fight. This isn't my conversation. I can't really speak to it. You feel like the word would have been flying around everywhere in 1966 and 67 in the South in this kind of facility. Come on, man. You know it would have been. So clearly the filmmakers made a choice. We're not going to do that. We're not using it. And good for them. Absolutely good for them. I'm assuming the filmmaker is black. I don't know. But it's their choice. It's not my choice. I can't speak to it. What the fuck do I know, man? Like I said, I'm white. So, I don't know shit. But here's my problem with it. Is that, like, they clearly made a choice. We don't want to fucking hear that. We don't want to stay here for 2 hours and hear that word flying around everywhere from white mouths. I totally understand that. Like I said. But, that moment in the car, he almost called him that and then held himself back. And then just said, "Hey, can you bring the keys?" See, if you hadn't done that, I would not have even noticed that you didn't use a word. I literally wouldn't have noticed. It never crossed my mind. I wasn't thinking about it. I was immersed in the story, and I was irritated with the type of filmmaking that we're doing, in the perspective. It wasn't until he kept himself from saying the words like they called attention to it. So just leave that out, right? If you're not going to do it, leave it out. But by making him control himself, you're actually making him look better. He's like, I was going to use a slur, but that would be wrong. Let me just not do that. That's how it comes across. I'm sorry, but that's how it comes across. So you're letting him off the hook is what you're doing. I feel. Like I said, I can't speak to it, but like I believe you're letting them off the hook. You're letting them look better than they actually were, especially him because he kept himself from saying it. He was going to say it. He was inclined to say it, and he held himself back for why? What reason? Why would you hold yourself back? Where's the audience? Like, you don't know there's a film audience here watching you. You think it's just some other dude, right? So the only reason you'd hold yourself back is you're super moral, and you're like, you know what? That would be wrong. So I didn't like that. If you want to have a word clean movie, and I totally understand why you'd want to do that. Shit was bad enough without hearing that shit for fucking 2 hours. Then just have it, and don't have him almost say it and hold himself back. I feel like that's a major mistake. Like they just fucked up, personally. So, but really, my actual issue with this movie is the point of view. I feel like you spend too much time trying to find out where the fuck you are. They were going to black too much. It was artistically relevant, like he's closing his eyes, he's looking down at the ground, like the camera's moving all over the fucking place. It didn't feel realistic when he's in a car. He'd be looking out the fucking window, and they didn't do it because they didn't have the budget to do it. Clearly, right? They couldn't show what the outside would look like back then with the movie car, which they had other locations outside that were pretty wide views. Maybe that's where their budget went. They only had so much budget to, because when you shoot outside these days and it's supposed to be 1960s, you got to digitally remove all kinds of crap, modern power lines and internet lines and fucking jet trails in the air and just buildings that don't make sense and cars that don't make sense, and you can't control the entire fucking area. There'll be a car in a road fucking 2 miles away we can see. You gotta take that shit out. That costs money. You don't have the money for it. I get it, but it just, it's contrived, really, is what it was. So I have a ton of issues with that. I hate it. But while I'm just saying that, I know I keep qualifying this movie ain't for me. And admittedly, a lot of shit went over the head. I think this is a very cerebral movie. There's some shit that it's probably doing that I'm gonna feel like a fucking idiot when somebody explains it to me. Like, wait a minute, that's what that meant. Shit. So, this movie, very rarely does a movie make me feel dumb. And this movie makes me feel dumb. So there's that. But I'm grading on what I know here, right? And in my own personal experience, nobody else's experience. You get a 4, man. Trash. Wow. These movies are killing me score-wise, man. Now, having said all that, I think this one's going to win the Oscar. I really do. Because I think my experience is in the minority. I think people are going to fucking love this. They're going to think it's super original, because it is. They're very competent. These filmmakers are fucking clever. They're very smart. There's so many decisions they made. It's like, damn, that was fucking cool. So many. I've talked about most of them during the movie. Another one was just how they showed Turner die, man. Like, that was just fucking cool, man. They had him on the side and shit. It started to fade out. You had the dude standing over top of him, and then you're kind of going, you're kind of cross-cutting with, now he's floating above Earth. All that shit was great. I think this right now is my leader for winning the... Now, I still got 2 movies left. But right now, if it was just these 3 movies, I think Nickel Boys would win hands down. It's just got the oomph. It's got the subject matter. It's got the gravitas. It's got the boldness, the confidence, the creativity. Yeah, to me, this is the one that's going to win. We'll see. But, man, it's just very well done. All right, here we go with the next movie in the Oscar Best Adapted Screenplay category. Conclave. Characters. They were broad but not very deep. 3-dimensional. We don't know anything about any of these people. We don't know anything about their past. It's all in the moment. How they feel right now. There's a lot of characters. I feel like, here's the thing. They juggled a lot of characters. They did it well. A lot of the characters feel like real people. That's hard to do. There's probably at least a dozen characters in this movie that feel like real people. Although, like I said, broad but not deep. They're an inch thick. Where some of these other movies, like, there's only three characters that matter. They're like really, really thick, right? So, if you know what I mean. So I think the characterization was done really well. I'll give it an 8. Dialogue. Excellent. Excellent, excellent dialogue. It's a little samey, like everybody kind of sounds the same. It's almost like I would call it an Aaron Sorkin disease. In his case, everybody's very intelligent. They never stumble their words, and they're prone to long monologues that come to a precise point instead of ramble off into nothingness. In this particular case, it probably makes sense because they have similar educations, similar status. I don't know. I mean, it was fine. It was really good dialogue. I'll just give it. Most people are getting an 8, so I'll just give it an 8. Plot. Now, this is a very plot-heavy movie. The other movies have been character-heavy movies. This is a plot-heavy movie. The plot is a little dense. I like that they don't hold your hand. I like that, like, for instance, Simonry. They didn't define it. I know what Simonry is. Figure it out yourself, audience. I love that so much. It's a dense plot. This was adapted from a novel, which does not surprise me. I bet the novel, the plot was even more complicated, right? Like, there's all kinds of shit going on. It was well woven. I don't think there was any major plot holes. It was an intriguing mystery. There was more than one mystery. It was all woven very well. It was all very, very well put together. I'd say this is a very strong plot. I'll give it a 9. Intangibles. There's something cold about this movie. Maybe it's just I'm not religious. Maybe religious people really get into it. Maybe the pacing was just a little bit off. Some of the sequences went a little long. I would rather they have stuck to just one language. Either make it all Italian and just use subtitles, or make it all English and we can pretend the English is Spanish. I don't know what country the movie comes from. Maybe that's perhaps part to do with it. That was a little weird. Why they keep flipping back and forth between languages. Like, maybe just pretend English is Italian, and then anytime they do Latin, then you can use subtitles. I don't know. It's a little weird. I don't know why they were doing that. You would think they would just speak one. I don't care which one. Speak all Italian and give us subtitles all the time. The juggling back and forth was a little annoying, but mainly it was because my main copy of the movie that I downloaded, I prefer to use the downloaded version because I just don't have time to screen record for 2 hours, didn't have the subtitles. So then I had a backup plan on the website that did have the subtitles. So anytime I hit a bunch of Latin or whatever, or Spanish, or Italian, I guess Italian. Anytime I hit a bunch of Italian, I would have to go there and watch the scene there. And then a couple times when I encountered a lot of it, I would just screen record it and then watch the screen recording for the first time. You probably noticed that, right? You'll see when the captions go in and out, right? So it made me realize probably more than I would have otherwise if it had just been subtitled in the movie. That they were doing a lot. They would have long monologues in Italian. And I don't understand why. That's a weird writing choice. Maybe it's just another films from another country. But like I said, I'd rather you just be all Italian and just have all subtitles. So I don't know what that was about. It's a well-written movie. I think I'd be more impressed if it was an original screenplay rather than the author did all the work and the screenwriters just kind of adapting it. That we're not supposed to really take that into consideration. But it just feels like a cold movie for some reason. Like the only time it really felt warm and human was when that dude was crying in his room, and then Lawrence was comforting him. That felt, but otherwise it's just, I don't know. It's just very reserved, and I think it's mostly people being petty and political, and that's why it felt cold. So maybe it's intentional. So I don't know. Like, put all that together, I guess we give it a 7. Which actually gives us our highest score. I don't think this will win. I just don't see the audience connecting with this movie. I just, it feels standoffish. It doesn't feel like the kind of movie, like, I still think Nickel Boys is going to win. We have one more. I'm not going to, Sing Sing has an outside chance. If I was a betting man, I would put my money on Nickel Boys and then maybe throw a $5-10 flyer on Sing Sing, right? So far, those are the movies I think are really well written, but then also or warm movies. You know what I mean? That connect with the audience. I was just like, Emilia Perez, I really liked it. I don't know if it's going to connect with the audiences. And it had a couple terrible performances. And I had other issues with it, right? So, yeah, I talked about that. So at this point, that's where I'm thinking we still have one more movie to go. So, and I have already seen about 20 minutes of it. I think I'm really going to enjoy it. I don't know how well written it's going to be, but we're going to find out. Hopefully, they get a copy of that soon. Well, here we go. The last installment in this prediction video. And this is for all the marbles. And usually I get the results after I make my final prediction. Can't do that this time because as I record this, 5:20 in the morning, February 26th, the Oscars won't be until next Sunday, so about 4 or 5 days away. So I won't know. You in the future will know, but I won't know. But a boy can dream. In my head, I got it right. So all right, here we go with the rankings for this movie. Being a biopic, you can pretty much nail the characters. I'm just going to give it an 8. The characters are pretty well drawn. The movie has writing problems. It's haphazard. It's unfocused. It's all over the place. What the hell is the point of the movie? Is it about the festival? Is it about his relationships? Can you pick a lane? Which one matters more? And I think thematically, you could say the way he treats the festival and his friends is also the way he treats his women. And that's the thematic consistency. He's a dick. He'd rather have freedom. Cause I think Joan, what she said at the end there, like you got what you wanted, your freedom. Pretty much sums up maybe his choices. You can't say it. You can't make him do anything. You can't dictate to him. You tell him he's got a opposition defiance disorder or something. It's like whatever you tell him to do, he wants to do the opposite. That shit, I don't know. But I have my problems with the writing, and it's just there's no payoff. It's like he does this shit on stage, and his manager is pissed off at him, but we never see the conversation that results from that. Even if it's like the manager's not going to dump him because he's going to make a lot of money with him. And I guess Bob wouldn't listen to him, so maybe it wouldn't be that interesting of a conversation. But that was that way for the whole movie, right? We didn't, we don't see him break up with Sylvie. We just see him show up, and she says we're already broken up. It's like there were missing. It feels like there's missing scenes, and so I don't know. It's already a long movie, so I'm not saying you want to put that shit in there, but I'm feeling like the movie's trying to did we need anything with Johnny Cash, right? Like now maybe that meant something thematically, but I'm like you could pull out Johnny Cash and focus on some of this other shit I'm talking about. I don't know, man. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that it's kind of all over the place. Although to be clear, I really enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the characters. I think it's really well done. I don't know how accurate it is, but I think it's really well done. The performances are great. The guy who played Bob, Timothy, whatever, I didn't really like what he was doing with his mouth in a couple scenes. It just felt forced. You could see him acting. But other than that, it was a pretty good performance, and I think it feels pretty accurate. He feels like Bob Dylan to me. Not that I know much about the dude. Had never really seen him. I don't know. Just I really enjoyed the movie, but I did have a few problems with the writing. Dialogue. I remember I was complaining about Conclave, where everybody kind of sounds samey. This wasn't that. Everybody has a distinctive voice. I think the dialogue was really sharp, and the characters had a very specific point of view and a way of talking. Oh, another one is what was up with Pete's wife? We don't really know anything about her. We get the movie's obsessed with the women reaction shots, and so it's she kind of talks him out of not destroying the sound system. I guess for some reason we don't know why. They only had a couple conversations, so it's again, she's another one of these characters. It's you don't really know anything about them. You don't know why they're doing what they're doing, why they're on the side that they're on. So I don't know. I mean, but yeah, the dialogue was sharp. The plot just was. This is another character-driven movie. 4 of the 5 are character-driven movies, not plot-driven movies. This plot didn't really make a whole lot of sense. I'm not sure what it was trying to be, so I'm just gonna give it a 4. I think 3 of the 5, yeah, Nickel Boys and Sing Sing were also kind of based on true stories. 3 of the 5 were based on true stories. That's kind of interesting. And typically, I guess if you're based on a true story, it's going to be character driven, not plot driven, because real life doesn't really have a plot. It's all about your character. So you are it's how you're experiencing events. It's not really, ooh, I found a wrench, and that means I know who the killer is. Whatever, right? The plot. Our lives are not plot driven; they're character driven. So, real life stories are pretty much going to be always character driven. Intangibles. I just had a lot of problems with this one. So pretty much what I stated already. So I'll give it a 4. So 25. Well, my final analysis is if we're factoring in everything, I think Conclave is too cold. A Complete Unknown is not really a movie where the writing stands out, the music, and that's another thing too. A lot of screen time. I will put that under intangibles. A lot of screen time is devoted to songs, so that's less writing. You hear slap a song, slap a song. There's probably only an hour of actual writing in this movie. The rest of it was songs. A lot of the screen time is devoted to that, so I just can't imagine this movie winning. I just don't see how that would happen. Perez, I doubt it for a variety of reasons. So really, I think the only competition here is Nickel Boys and Sing Sing. And between the two of them, I think Nickel Boys is stronger. Like it's more focused, it's sharper. I think the twist, why I didn't get the twist, but I think a lot of people will get it and they'll really like it. And it's just such a creative, innovative movie. Like I didn't particularly like the innovation that they did, but it is innovative. I think it's going to stand out. It's going to stick in people's minds. It'll be the one movie they're like, yeah, they should win. I think that they win the Oscar. I would be very surprised if they don't win it. So, like with Chase Bridges, when he talks about we're going to lock in my pick, right? I've found Chase Bridges recently on his YouTube channel, really enjoying his stuff. But yeah, as an homage to him, I'm going to lock in my pick, Nickel Boys. Not going to change my mind. That's what we're going with. See you on Sunday.